A prominent figure in the Adventist movement, was not only known for her spiritual guidance, but also for her deep understanding of health and wellness. Throughout her life, she emphasized the importance of living a balanced, healthy lifestyle, and she was adamant about how the food we consume directly impacts our spiritual and physical well-being. What is often overlooked in modern health trends is that not all food labeled as healthy is truly beneficial, and some may even be spiritually harmful. The food industry has long sold the idea that eating healthy is key to a better life, but Ellen G. White foresaw a hidden danger in what we now consider a healthy diet. She warned that while many foods may appear beneficial to our physical bodies, they could be spiritually corrupting. Foods that are promoted as wholesome and natural may come with unintended consequences, especially when they are consumed without discernment or understanding of their deeper implications on our health and spiritual life. One of her more radical views was the idea that the consumption of certain foods, even when deemed healthy, could lead to a form of spiritual decay. She recognized that many health movements were rooted in a desire to improve physical health, but she also highlighted the potential for these movements to be manipulated by external forces. She warned that those seeking to improve their physical health through these diets might be inadvertently opening themselves up to spiritual corruption. Many people today are searching for the perfect diet, the perfect food, believing that consuming what is deemed healthy will make them feel better and live longer. Yet Ellen G. White cautioned that focusing solely on food and physical wellness could lead to a dangerous imbalance, where spiritual health is neglected. She believed that true health required more than just a focus on diet. It required spiritual discernment, balance, and a holistic approach to the mind, body, and soul. She emphasized the importance of whole, plant-based foods, but she also warned against overindulgence or placing food as an idol in our lives. The act of eating, while essential, should never overshadow the need for spiritual growth and connection with God. Food should nourish not only the body, but also the spirit. However, when food becomes a focus beyond its intended purpose, it can corrupt the very essence of a person's spiritual health. As we delve deeper into the world of health food, it becomes increasingly evident that not all that glitters is gold. Foods marketed as superfoods or wellness products are often touted as the cure-all for every ailment. Yet, Ellen G. White's warnings ring louder in our ears. These so-called health foods may lead us down a dangerous path if we're not careful. She understood that food industries had become expert at manipulating the desires of the public for profit, using labels and claims to distract us from the true essence of what we consume. Ellen G. White cautioned about the rising trend of refined and processed foods, which were often disguised as healthy alternatives. Even foods made from plant-based ingredients could be corrupted by additives, preservatives, and unhealthy processing methods. These practices may have seemed harmless at first, but they were in direct opposition to the natural laws of health and well-being that Ellen G. White preached about. The pursuit of convenience often led people to neglect the simplicity of whole, natural foods. She also warned against the dangers of consuming foods with too much sugar, salt, or unnatural substances, even if these were technically labeled as healthy. In her view, the obsession with diet trends often overshadowed a crucial point. Food should serve to maintain our physical and spiritual well-being, not become a source of idolatry or an obsession that detracts from spiritual growth. Even today, we see the rise of various health food fads. From juice cleanses to plant-based protein powders, the food industry continuously introduces new trends that promise to improve our bodies. Yet, like the health movements of Ellen G. White's time, these trends can often distract from the deeper, more meaningful aspects of health and spirituality. For Ellen G. White, food was not simply a way to achieve physical health. but it was a way to draw closer to God and to live in harmony with His natural laws. In essence, Ellen G. White believed that consuming food should be a purposeful act, one that contributes to both physical vitality and spiritual well-being. As the food industry became more complex, she foresaw that these trends could lead people to lose sight of the true meaning of nourishment. She emphasized the importance of moderation, simplicity, and discernment in choosing what to eat, as well as the need to continually prioritize the cultivation of the spirit over the pursuit of physical perfection. When Ellen G. White spoke about food, it was clear that she understood the deeper spiritual implications behind our eating habits. The act of consuming food is not just about filling our stomachs. It's about choosing what we are feeding our spirits as well. In her writings, she drew a direct connection between food and spiritual health. For Ellen G. White, there was a spiritual battle at play, one that was reflected in the foods we consumed. What we ate could either build us up spiritually or pull us away from God. Her concerns about the spiritual dangers of certain foods were not merely theoretical, they were based on her understanding of human nature and the tendency to indulge in selfish desires. She recognized that the temptation to eat for pleasure rather than nourishment was a powerful force, and it could easily lead to overconsumption, addiction, and an unhealthy obsession with food. The desire for instant gratification often clashed with the higher calling to maintain self-control and spiritual discipline. Ellen G. White saw the act of eating as an opportunity to practice temperance and self-control, two virtues that were essential for spiritual growth. In her view, the overindulgence in even healthy foods could have a detrimental impact on one's spiritual life, leading to the loss of clarity, focus, and the ability to hear the voice of God. By giving in to food cravings or obsessing over perfect diets, individuals risked losing sight of their higher spiritual purpose. Moreover, she recognized that food could become an idol. People could fall into the trap of becoming so fixated on eating the right foods or achieving the perfect body that they began to worship the idea of health itself. Ellen G. White's teachings about food were never meant to be a condemnation of enjoying good, nutritious meals. They were a call for balance and perspective. Health should be a means to an end, not an end in itself. The ultimate goal was not just physical well-being, but the cultivation of a life that was spiritually rich and aligned with God's will. In this spiritual battle, Ellen G. White believed that it was vital to remain vigilant. By staying connected to God through prayer, meditation, and wise food choices, one could navigate the temptations and distractions that surrounded them. In the end, the true purpose of food, she argued, was not to corrupt our spirits, but to nourish them so that we could live a life in harmony with God's laws. Ellen G. White's teachings on food were deeply rooted in the understanding that misplaced priorities could corrupt not only our physical bodies, but our spirits as well. When food became an obsession or an idol, it became a tool of spiritual decay. Her caution against overindulgence and focusing too much on diet was not just about maintaining physical health, it was about maintaining the integrity of the soul. In her writings, Ellen G. White emphasized the importance of a balanced life, where food was seen as one part of the broader picture of health. The true corruption came when food became the center of attention, displacing spiritual pursuits and the relationship with God. When people began to elevate their food choices above their spiritual needs, they risked becoming disconnected from the very purpose for which they were created. This imbalance could lead to what she described as spiritual malnutrition. People who focused too much on eating the right foods while neglecting their spiritual growth were in danger of starving their souls. True nourishment, in Ellen G. White's view, came not from the perfect diet, but from a life lived in accordance with God's will, where food was a means of sustaining the body so that the spirit could thrive. Her writings on food were ultimately a reminder to prioritize the things of God above all else, While food was important, it should never overshadow the need for spiritual connection. The corrupting force, she believed, was not the food itself, but the misplaced focus on food as the end goal. When people placed more importance on food than their relationship with God, their spiritual health began to deteriorate.